Chapter 10. Dead flies cause the ointment of the apothecary to send forth a stinking savour. So doth a little folly him that is in reputation for wisdom and honour. A wise man's heart is at his right hand, but a fool's heart at his left. Yea, also, when he that is a fool walketh by the way, his wisdom faileth him, and he saith to every one that he is a fool. If the spirit of the ruler rise up against thee, leave not thy place, for yielding pacifieth great offences. There is an evil which I have seen under the sun, as an error which proceedeth forth from a ruler. Folly is set in great dignity, and the rich sit in low place. I have seen servants upon horses, and princes walking as servants upon the earth. He that digged a pit shall fall into it, and whoso breaketh an hedge, the serpent shall bite him. Whoso removeth stones shall be hurt therewith, and he that cleaveth wood shall be endangered thereby. If the iron be blunt, but he do not whet the edge, then must he put to more strength, but wisdom is profitable to direct. Surely the serpent will bite without enchantment, and a babbler is no better. The words of a wise man's mouth are gracious, but the lips of a fool will swallow up himself. The beginnings of the words of his mouth is foolishness, and the end of his talk is mischievous madness. A fool is also full of words. A man cannot tell what shall be, and what shall be after him who can tell? The labor of the foolish wearieth every one of them, because he knoweth not how to go to the city. Woe to thee, O land, when thy king is a child, and thy princes eat in the morning. Blessed art thou, O land, when thy king is the son of nobles, and thy princes eat in due season for strength, and not for drunkenness. But much slothfulness in the building decayeth, and though through idleness of the hands the house droppeth through. A feast is made for laughter, and wine maketh merry, but money answereth all things. Curse not the king, no, not in thy thought, and curse not the rich in thy bedchamber, for a bird of the air shall carry the voice, and that which hath wings shall tell the matter. Chapter 10 basically consists of proverbs, very much the same as would be in the Proverbs of Solomon, except most of these have a negative feeling to them. Some of them very plainly so. Verse 1, Dead flies cause the ointment of the apothecary to send forth a stinking savour smell, and so doth a little folly causes him that has a reputation for wisdom and honor to lose his wisdom and honor. So if you're known for being wise and having honor, don't try to do anything that would be considered foolish. It is terrible. Just be the wise and honorable individual and stay that way. A wise man's heart is at his right hand, that's where his strength is, but a fool's heart is on his left. It basically means a fool's ability to do things is nowhere near as good as a wise man's ability is. They always seem to get into trouble no matter what they do. Yea, also, when he that is a fool walketh by the way, his wisdom faileth him. In other words, when he's out walking around, when he's seeing and meeting people, okay, he saith to everyone that he is a fool. Well, he doesn't walk up to them and say, I'm a fool, I'm a fool, I'm a fool. What it is the things he says are foolish. Now, verse 4 would be a little bit challenging here. If the spirit of the ruler rise up against thee. In other words, if whoever is in charge, wherever you are, is angry with you. It says, leave not thy place, for yielding pacifieth great offenses. What that trying to get you to understand is, don't run away, okay? But, because that basically could be taken as though you are guilty, but stay and yield to the ruler. Say, yes, your majesty, I guess, oh yes, you were right and I was wrong, and then the ruler is happy again. Whereas if you just leave and take off, That's like a confession that you're guilty, and you lose the ability to yield. You lose the ability to pacify the wrong. They just get upset with you even more because they can't do anything. Now, there is an evil which I have seen under the sun, and is as an error which proceedeth from the ruler. And basically it's this. Folly is set in great dignity. In other words, they have the king set up to make him look like he's the great grand guy, right? He's all wise, all knowing, all smart, and all the rest of it. And the rich sit in very low places. In other words, you don't ever want to have your head higher than the king's head. That was an interesting thing of all the Roman emperors and many of the others, Pharaoh and whatnot. That's one of the reasons they set up on thrones. They always wanted to be able to look down on people who came in. They never wanted anybody, no matter how tall they were, to have their head higher. That was a horrible thing. They always wanted to look down on people. That's where the idea of looking down on somebody came from. Then he says, I've seen servants on horses and princes walking as servants on the earth. And yeah, that's, basically those sorts of things happen. That's not the order of things that a ruler, you got to remember this is King Solomon who's writing these things. That's not the way it's supposed to be. He said, whoso removeth stone shall be hurt therewith, and he that cleaveth wood shall be endangered thereby. I can tell you from splitting wood that every once in a while, that usually one of the boys would be putting the wood on the block, the splitting block, and I'd be hitting it with the axe. And verse 9 and verse 10, if the iron be blunt and he do not wet, sharpen the edge, then he must put more strength. But wisdom is profitable to direct. Basically, if you sharpen the axe, you get a better bite into the wood and you're more likely to split it. And every once in a while, one of the boys would get going and they would be moving wood while I was splitting. I'd taken just a little longer than they had anticipated. And a piece of the wood would go flying and almost hit them. You want to make sure that when you're working with something that doesn't harm anybody. Surely the serpent will bite without enchantment. The serpent does not need magical spells to bite people. And a babbler is no better. A babbler will just babble, 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 babble. They don't need permission and they don't need any kind of spell to do this. The words of a wise man's mouth are gracious, but the lips of a fool will swallow up himself. So what happens is a wise man, when he says words, he will be gracious, he will be complimentary, he will be kind, he will be generous, he will be loving. But a fool will say whatever comes to his mind, and usually that will wind up in the long run doing him harm. It'll either show he's an idiot, or it will cause people to think that he is really, really, really stupid and hurtful. The beginning of the words of his mouth is foolishness, and the end of his talk is mischievous madness. So that's about the fool. A fool is also full of words. A man cannot tell what shall be, and what shall be after him. Who can tell him? The labor of the foolish wearieth every one of them, because he knoweth not how to go to the city. In other words, he doesn't know when to stop. Woe to thee, O land, when thy king is a child, and thy princes eat in the morning. And basically what it means is feast in the morning. Because when they feast in the morning, they don't do anything all day. They sleep. Blessed art thou, O land, when thy king is the son of nobles. In other words, he knows how to handle wealth and position and power. And thy princes eat in due season, in the proper way, in the proper time. And they eat for strength. They don't eat to fill themselves and drink. That's it. But much slothfulness the building decayeth. In other words, if you don't look after the things in due season, then everything starts to fall apart.